well. I did not see that coming. I'm recording this the day after. The game was just yesterday. I don't know if I'm gonna post this today or tomorrow. We'll see. But yeah, in case you guys don't know, the Los Angeles Clippers just got eliminated. They just blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets, who have way less experience than them. So what happened? Why did the Clippers lose? Well, we're gonna dive into it right here. As much as the Clippers players or the staff want to say this season wasn't championship or bust because they had the whole future, they have like a few more years left, it wasn't. It was championship or bust. Everyone picked them, at least a lot of people picked them to win the NBA championship this year, and they failed. So, that's a big failure in itself. That is a bust. You look at the players on the team, looking at like Kawhi in the fourth quarters for the last few games, wasn't that great. Nikola Jokic was clearly the best player in the series, and down the stretch of games, Jamal Murray in the last few played better than Kawhi. As for Paul George, I would say something nice about Paul George, but I don't know what to say. Let's be honest here. Paul George sucked. He blew. He really sucked like the whole postseason. He literally was terrible. I don't know how to put it, like playoff P. Got all the memes of pandemic P, way off P. He was just so bad. And it's hard to believe because this guy was top 3 in MVP voting just a year ago. And it's like, I don't think we'll ever see that Paul George again. Wasn't even an all-star this year. And I know he had an injury, but he wasn't really even playing like he deserved an all-star spot when he was healthy this year. He was like a fringe level player. Lou Williams was never focused when he came back into the bubble. And really, I was kind of ashamed by that because this is a guy who's thrived off being an underdog, thrived off, never winning anything. He was an 8 seed with the Sixers when they beat the Bulls. Now granted, like Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah were injured. He was on the 8 seed team with the Clippers last year when they almost upset the Warriors. They took him to 6. But now you have these expectations, and now it seems like he just doesn't care, and he seems like he's above all. And he's out there going to the strip club in other cities, and it's horrible for the team's focus because it's like, what are you doing? And also with Montrezl Harrell, he was in and out of the lineup. He didn't come back till the playoffs started. Landry Shamet, he was dealing with injuries. Patrick Beverley was in and out of the lineup. All this stuff comes back to bite you. You can't just afford to have players play this day, play the next day, or whatever. And that's why team chemistry matters. You can't rely on load management to win a title. I know it worked last year for the Raptors and for Kawhi, but if you look at who they played, I think the Orlando Magic are a mentally tough team. They're just not nearly as good as those Raptors were. The Sixers and the Bucks, a lot of them were pretty mentally weak, except for maybe Jimmy Butler and maybe JJ Redick, but those guys are gone now anyways. And you look at the Warriors, they were probably the only team that had that kind of experience, that championship caliber team, and Kevin Durant got hurt, and Klay Thompson was injured, and Boogie just came off an injury. I don't want to take away anything from the Raptors or from Kawhi because that run was sensational, but you got to look at stuff like that as well because load management likely wouldn't have got them a championship if those Warriors were healthy. So to cruise through this whole season, basically blow off the regular season, say we're going to come in for the playoffs and be prepared, and they're only looking at maybe one team and they're overlooking their current team, then that's why you're probably going to lose. And Doc Rivers, Doc Rivers blown 3-1 leads over his career. He's got the most losses in a Game 7. I think Doc Rivers is a solid coach, but I think he's an overrated coach. I've seen some people calling him a top 5 coach currently in the NBA. I think that's bogus. I don't think he's top 5. He might not even be top 10. And I know he has championship experience because he won with the Celtics in 08, but that team had 3, arguably 4 Hall of Famers anyways. In terms of the best player in the world argument, I know it was pretty much between 4 guys. Of course, Kevin Durant's hurt, but Giannis was in that argument, but he got embarrassed by the Heat. Kawhi was in that argument, but he just lost to the Nuggets, and the only person left is LeBron. Now we'll see what LeBron does against the Nuggets. If he loses to them too, that would be crazy, but I don't know, it's 2020, anything can happen. If he were to lose to the Nuggets though, I don't even know what to think of this argument anymore. Everyone just has some thing against them. But I think that they will beat them. I think that the Lakers are probably the favorites to win of the 4 teams left. I don't know how that'll affect them next year because the next year they'll probably be the favorites according to the odds, to win the next championship. Teams like the Clippers and the Bucks will move down, but they're probably going to be more motivated, as well as teams like the Nets, who will be healthy, the Jazz, after Donovan Mitchell had an insane postseason, but came up short against the Nuggets, of course. I think those teams are also going to be better as well, and it's going to be even harder the next season. But I don't think the Lakers are even looking at that. They're looking at this season, and if they win the title this year, I think that they'll be happy with that as well. But I mean, looking at the Clippers right now, they just don't have chemistry. I mean, the Nuggets have way more chemistry than the Clippers, and they're younger than the Clippers, and they just beat the Clippers. So if I'm a Clippers fan, like, that would be a concern to me. Now, I'm not a Clippers fan, I'm a Bulls fan, but I'm just talking in that perspective. The Clippers also have free agents like Montrezl Harrell, JaMychal Green, Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson. You gotta remember, they traded away all those picks. They traded all those picks for Paul George and essentially Kawhi too, but they gave away like 6 picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari. That's gonna probably come back to bite them in the butt if they don't end up winning at least one championship. They traded more picks. Paul George made shots the other day. So with Kawhi and Paul George in their prime, Lou Williams is getting older, they're gonna need win now pieces. Like, that's their whole thing. And if they just lose some of these guys, like say they lose Montrezl Harrell, they lose Marcus Morris, and they don't get anything, it could be something like we saw with the Houston Rockets in 2018 when they lost Trevor Ariza and Luc Mbah a Moute, and then they got nothing. And I know on my show, me and Johnny, we both picked the Clippers over the Bucks in 6, but in a sense, I'm kind of happy that the Clippers didn't win the title because they really didn't deserve it. I mean, you saw the stuff with Kawhi and New Balance teaming up to promote the King of LA commercial. You saw Patrick Beverley telling Steph Curry, the next 5 years are going to be mine, not yours, like you're done. We saw Paul George and Patrick Beverley both clowning Damian Lillard when he missed a free throw in the bubble, saying that you're going to get sent home this year. Well, at least he knows how to send home the Nuggets. And overall, it was kind of false hope. I mean, yeah, they probably could have beat the Lakers. I think if they did play the Lakers, that they would have won. But I mean, overlooking the task at hand is never going to help you in any situation. And that's why the Nuggets advanced and the Clippers didn't. So we'll never know. As for the stars of the Clippers, Paul George showed me that he is not an underrated playoff performer. And he's pretty bad under this type of pressure, just like he was in 2018 against a rookie. And it really is sad because I actually was defending Paul George. I thought he played pretty well for most of the series last year against the Trailblazers. I thought in 2017, when he pretty much had nothing around him, even though they got like swept, he played pretty well by his standards. It was a good performance by him individually, and no one expected him to win. But under this stage, even against the Mavericks, he wasn't that good. And against the Nuggets, I mean, 4 for 16. He had just as many shots off the side of the backboard as he did makes the other day. As for Kawhi, I think this is the first time we can officially say that he choked. I mean, he did. There's literally nothing else to say but he choked. And I don't know if he necessarily choked under pressure. I know a lot of people would say, oh, maybe he can't handle this limelight, because we saw him do it last year against the Sixers in the Game 7. So we've seen him under this pressure. We've seen him down 2-0 last year to the Bucks, and he came back. And also, this is a dude that doesn't even have social media. So whatever you're saying out there, it's not going to get to him. He's not going to be hearing what maybe Lakers fans are mocking him for, or anyone else who would hate him, maybe like Rockets fans. I don't know who would be against him really other than Lakers fans, but that's the point. I don't think he's going to be taking that seriously. I just think he had a bad game by his standards, and unfortunately it came in the biggest game of the year for them. But I think he needed something like this to understand failure. I mean, this is a guy who's never missed the playoffs in his career. He's already won 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, and he has the best win percentage for any individual player ever. I mean, all the greats have failures. We saw Jordan lost to the Magic in 1995. We saw LeBron lose to the Mavericks in 2011. We saw Kobe lose to the Suns in 2006. And I'm not trying to excuse Kawhi, because he did play really bad in the fourth quarters of the last few games, but he did lead the team in every single stat category. He led them in points per game, rebounds a game, assists per game, steals a game, blocks a game. And when we praise LeBron for doing that in losing efforts too, so I think we got to consider that for Kawhi as well. Overall, I'm not really too concerned about Kawhi moving forward. He is going to have a different perspective by the media until he can officially redeem himself, which won't be until next season. And I think we finally put expectations on him similar to LeBron or Durant, in terms of, you're one of these players, you need to show up in these moments. And he will be held accountable for his failures, and this whole year is a failure for the entire Clippers organization. I I mean, they've gone half a century with no NBA championships, no finals appearances, not even a conference finals appearance. But I don't know, maybe the Clippers curse is real after all. But guys, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. I just thought I'd give my takes on the Clippers, you know, losing to the Nuggets, because this is like something we did not expect at all. I think pretty much everyone had Lakers Clippers booked somewhere in the playoffs, and now we're not going to see it at least until next season. But I guess we'll see how the rest of the playoffs turn out. I mean, the Nuggets, they've played pretty well. Maybe they can continue their historic run against the Lakers and against either the Heat or Celtics in the finals. Guys, that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.